Thank you very much, Solomon, for being here. I'm Pablo Fredrickson. I'm a sysadmin SRE nerd. I've been working with these technologies for 15 years. I've been using Docker for a lot of time. So thank you for all what you do. So please, can you introduce yourself for those people that maybe don't know you yet?
Sure. Hi, I'm Solomon. I co-founded a company called Docker and spent 10 years working on that, and then left in 2018, took some time off, and now I started working on a new project called Dagger.
Awesome. And what's your background? Are you like a developer, a sysadmin, or a gardener? What did you do before?
Yes,
before
to all of these. Well, I started out as a sysadmin when I was young, to make money on the side from school. And then I went to a software engineering school, so I was trained as a developer, but took every course I could on the sysadmin side, and then got really interested in the combination of both, and just sort of pursued a path where I could write code and also deal with servers. And later it became sort of this word infrastructure was just coming up, it was appearing, and I thought that was very exciting to think of lots of servers as one big thing that you have to manage as a whole. Yeah, that's been always what I'm interested in.
Awesome. Yeah, that really aligns what you did with Docker. Can you explain a little bit again for those people that maybe don't know what Docker is or what is so important? Yeah, can you explain a little bit what a container or Docker is? What is that?
Yeah, sure. Well, so containers initially are a technology that have existed for a while, but they were used as a sort of an alternative to VMs. So just like a VM, but more lightweight. And so it was sort of a decision of what kind of virtualization do you want? It was, I think the common term was lightweight virtualization. And then what we were interested in with Docker, what we were a little obsessed with, was what if containers could be used for more than just an alternative to VMs? What if it was a unit of application deployment on top of your machine, and maybe on top of a virtual machine, or maybe on top of a physical machine, but just two different layers instead of alternatives. And so we started playing with this idea early on, and it was a very weird thing to do. And now it's very common that as a developer, when you want to deploy your application, you're going to package it in a container, and then you're going to upload that container to a server or a hosting provider, and then your application will run in it. So now it's kind of a common thing to do, but it used to be a very weird thing to do. So that's our contribution. We made that a very common thing to do, to use a container to deploy your application.
Exactly. So yeah, I was checking your Twitter before this talk, and one of the videos you were talking about the secret to creating like a successful company is to find a problem to solve, right? And yeah, and what problem do you think that you solved with Docker? Because it seems like, as you said, containers were around for many years, and people can use like a virtual machine. I mean, people sometimes they don't understand what is the problem that actually Docker can solve.
Yeah. So the way we described the problem at the time was as like a matrix, the matrix from hell. You have, all the different kinds of application components you might want to deploy, and then all the different kinds of infrastructure you might want to deploy it to. And every cell in that grid is a special case. So if you're deploying, a Java application to this particular infrastructure, you have to do it in a certain way. If you're running a Python application with a little bit of C on top of this other provider, then it's different, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes you want to run the application on your laptop, on the developer machine, right? And so
Yeah.
it works, but then when you deploy in production, it doesn't work. Just very basic problems like that. And our analogy was, well, in the shipping of physical things, you know, they have the same problem. You want to ship lots of different things through lots of different infrastructure, you know, trucks, boats, trains, whatever. And they invented this standard box. You just put stuff in the box, the shipping container, it's a standardized size, and you seal it, and then it can move from one to the other. So that was, we just took inspiration from that and said, well, let's standardize the shape of the box. And then, you know, everyone targets the same format and everyone can deploy from the same format, and you solve the matrix. So that's the problem that we wanted to solve. So when we use the word container, we used it to mean shipping container, you know, but for software. And so that we changed the meaning of the word. That container did not exist for a long time. You know, there was all the individual pieces of technology to do it were available, but using containers in that way, like a shipping container for software, that was very new. No one did that.
Exactly. And why do you think it was so successful? I mean, because when I think about technologies that really changed technology, like software technology, I cannot think of more than maybe Docker, Kubernetes now, and virtual machines, like in general. But Docker is like top 3 for sure. What do you think? Why do you think it's so successful and people actually use it? Besides being a good thing, right? I mean, what do you think?
What caused, like, why do so many people use it and not something else?
Right, exactly. Why Docker? Why people actually was easy for them to adopt it?
Yeah, I think, well, part of it is just random luck, I think, and the right thing at the right time, you know. It was just, there was a lot of demand for it. They just, this problem that we talked about, the matrix from hell, and, oh, it works on my machine, but it doesn't work in production. That was a huge problem. Everyone had that problem. And the tools that were available just did not solve it properly, you know? And so there was a need for a new tool. And so then I think where we helped our luck a little bit is that in the design process of the tool, like, I like to design for ease of use, but also for ease of adoption.
Yes.
So for me, particularly when we were designing the tool, I was thinking about, okay, how does it work? Will it scale? Will it be easy to use? But also, how do we get a lot of people to use this? So you kind of incorporate the goal of growth, the goal of getting a lot of people to use it. That's a design goal, you know. And so I think most tools most people that I know that make tools, they separate those two. First, you design the perfect tool, and then separately you figure out the best strategy to, you know, market it and sell it and get everyone to use it. But in our case, we kind of combine those two, you know, in the design process. So design growth probably was part of it.
If I may, I think that the best thing about all of that, what you're saying, is that it's really simple to Dockerize an application.
Right.
I mean, so people can just do whatever they do. I mean, if they have like a really ugly script, right, to do like apt-get all of the dependencies and all of that, they can just keep using that script. I mean, they can just add the script, run it, and it will work. So I think that's the best thing about it, because then they can make it better for sure. Yeah. But at the beginning, they can just do whatever they're using, and it will work.
Definitely, yeah. That's the perfect example, because that was very intentional, and we designed it that way because it's the best path to getting people to use it. You know, like I think a lot of tools. I mean, if you remember in the early days of Docker, there was a lot of criticism around lots of different criticism, but one of them was you can use it wrong, basically. You know, you can use Docker to do stupid things or things that are not perfect. So if you write a Docker file, it's very easy to write a Docker file that's slow or not repeatable, you know, or the caching is not great. Yeah. but it's kind of by design because it just means that you don't need to be perfect to use Docker. There's this mentality sometimes that you have to be worthy of the tool. Oh, you're not good enough to use my tool.
Yeah.
But it's the other way
Exactly.
around. You got to meet people where they are. Like you said, like you have a script already, you have an app already, it works this way. It should be it's Docker that should adapt to you. And then maybe now that you're using Docker, maybe there's a way to incrementally improve how you work,
Exactly.
But yeah, that's fundamental to how we design things. We're trying to do the same thing now with Dagger, but we got really lucky and it worked really well the first time for sure.
Exactly. So now that you mentioned, what are you working on right now? Because you said that you left Docker at 2018,
Yeah.
and what what did you do from 2018 from until your current company, if you want to share?
Oh yeah.
And what do you do now?
Sure. Well, so mostly I took time off and had babies. So I was a full-time dad for a while, and that was really fun. And then, I started spending time with some of my old friends from Docker. The early team that had gone through everything together. We changed countries. We moved from France to the US for Docker, and so we went through a lot together, and we started talking about, oh, hey, it would be fun to build something new, So that's where it started, actually. We wanted to build something together and have a good time and build the perfect team culture where later when more people join the team, it would just be the work environment we always wished we had, And Docker was different because the priority was this idea, this obsession with containers, and just there was so much potential. And I had been working on this container thing since 2008. First prototypes in 2007, and just Docker was iteration number 30, and so either you were in and you were following or not, and then the team built around the idea. This time we're building the team first. So that's really
awesome.
But we did find a problem to solve.
Okay, what problem are you solving now?
So it's related to the problem we solved with Docker, but basically the problem of glue scripts and all those pipelines around your application that are supposed to make your life easier by automating the build, the test, the deployment, all of those tasks. But they end up causing problems because they break, they don't scale. They're a throwaway script here, a throwaway script there, and then one day you need to combine them. So you have a bash script calling a Ruby script, calling a Perl script, and all of that is called by a YAML configured thing. And then you have another piece of code to manage the YAML, and then you have this horrible spaghetti.
Never seen that in my companies.
Yeah, right. So we're trying to find a way to fix that. Yeah.
What is so this the new tool that you're working on, Dagger?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is that those glue scripts, a lot of them are really trying to run pipelines. A lot of that code, it's really pipelines. You take a source artifact and then you produce a binary artifact. You take a binary artifact and then you produce a container image. And you use a Kubernetes configuration, and you're deploying it over there. There's just it's really a graph of data flowing through various pipelines, and sometimes the pipelines are connected. So our thinking was, everyone's just trying to reinvent these pipelines in different languages and with different tools. What if we just gave them a really nice API to create these pipelines with code? And then what if we ran these pipelines in containers? That way, all the benefits we just talked about for the app, like, oh, it's going to run the same everywhere, etc., you get them for your pipelines also. So that's the idea. So
basically, Dagger is like a Docker file for an entire pipeline with different parts, basically, and I can connect them And I was taking a look at Dagger a little bit before this, and you mentioned that is a graph, right? So now we can use something like GraphQL, right, to consume those little parts of your pipeline, and you can basically do a lot of things. And I think the good thing about Dagger again is that you can still use your scripts, you can still use your whatever you have, and then make them better if you can, right?
Yep. You know, it's funny because what you're describing, we actually made the mistake of not doing that as much as we could in the first version of Dagger. And now we're in the process of shipping a new version of Dagger. I think that's the one you saw. It's still under development, but it does use GraphQL.
Yeah, it's Cloak.
Right, exactly. Project Cloak. So and that's coming out soon. But if you go to the website of Dagger right now, you'll see like the first version. And it's fundamentally the same engine, but the main difference is that in the first version, you have to learn a new language to use it.
Q.
Yeah, Q. And it chose it because it was the most powerful declarative language we could find. And it has all these, like, it's really a great language. It's very powerful for managing large configurations. But so we found people who happened to be interested in learning a new language. And some were just really excited about Q. And so we have this community of people who are happily using the Dagger engine, and they were happy to make the effort initially to learn a completely new language. But what we discovered is there's a lot more people who need to solve this problem, you know, of these glue scripts that are horrible to maintain, and they want to replace them with a clean API with nice scalable pipelines. But they would much rather do that with their language, you know. Sometimes it's Bash, sometimes it's Ruby, Python, Go, TypeScript, etc. So that's Cloak. So that's what we're working on now.
Awesome.
And we're following our own advice. It's the same thing you said with the Docker file. Like, we should meet the user where they are. We just kind of temporarily forgot that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about the new version. So you keep mentioning that developers are going to be grabbing Dagger and using it and configuring it, right? And the VMware Explorer talk, you say that a platform is a thing you write code for, right? Do you think that SREs and DevOps people really want to write that much code? And because that's what you said right there. I mean, when I saw Q, I'm not a good developer. I mean, I can write some Python stuff and that's it. And it really scared me, right? I mean, I wasn't able to maybe understand it properly. So do you think that by doing that change, you will grab more people and people that can still do really cool stuff? They can still do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, it's really interesting what's happening in this space, right? I mean, there's this transition from sysadmin to SRE. Yeah, that's kind of a really big change in the kind of work you do. But some of the fundamentals are the same. Like, someone needs to be responsible for keeping the thing running, you know, and maybe the developer goes home and their code maybe the problem in the middle of the night comes from the application code, or maybe it's, you know, there's a fire in a data center somewhere, but like someone's got to deal with it, you know? And so for sure, if you're an SRE in a modern kind of cloud native infrastructure, blah, 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 you need to interact with code more. But there was always code, right? There was always a Perl script. You know, like there was always scripting. So I think it's fundamentally the same. Personally, I think the cloud, you know, the AWS account has replaced the server, but you need a way to script it and automate it. I don't think SREs are the same as developers at all. They have fundamentally different jobs. It's just that now they need a common language. And that common language has to be code of some sort, you know. So that's what we're trying to figure out, I think, as an industry. What's the common language?
Easier for both, basically.
Yeah,
and powerful enough.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really interesting that you have to find a common ground for, a team who's mostly focused on shipping the next feature or fixing their bug, and a team that's focused on infrastructure and running a service. And somehow you got to find a middle ground. It's a really interesting design challenge.
Yeah, for sure. So what are you excited about the future? Because I'm sure that people keep asking you the same question. What is next after containers, right? Because we started with like a computer with a CD drive, or actually a floppy, installing Debian or Ubuntu, then creating a virtual machine, then automating that and creating a virtual machine automatically. And now you can build containers and you can deploy them with Dagger with just one command.
Yep.
It seems like we are adding like abstraction layers, like over and over.
Yep.
Where's the limit? I mean, what are we going to do next? What do you think is going to be the next great technology in the next, 10 years?
Well, yeah, it's definitely a lot of layers.
Yep.
But that's kind of, I think it's, like everyone, I like to make fun of the ridiculous number of layers and the abstractions over abstractions.
Or using a library to check if a number is odd or even. It's basically just abstractions, right?
Yeah, it's all abstractions. I think it's for a good reason. I mean, it's a sign that it's working. Like tech is working. More people are writing code to do more things. Like
definitely.
Just like any infrastructure, if a city is growing, if a city is successful and it's growing fast and it lasts hundreds of years, then you have the same layers of infrastructure kind of on top of each other, right? And you see, I grew up in Paris, and every roof in Paris still has these TV antennas, and all turned off, because now that's not how you watch TV anymore, but they're still there.
Right.
And also, the one that really struck me, someone explained to me, a lot of the roads, the modern roads in France, they're actually in the same place where the Roman roads were, 1,000 years ago, because you just kind of, there's the road and you fix it and then you modernize it, So I think I think that's just really cool. So when I see the layers, I think of it that way, it's not a technology problem. It's more of it's just a human system evolution problem. So your question was what's next? Honestly, I'm not sure, but it feels like it's just growing a lot and expanding in a lot of directions, and so I think general purpose platforms for your application are definitely over. My platform is X, like, okay, my application is Windows or Java or RHEL, whatever. And it feels like those times are over and they're never coming back. There's so many specialized platforms that are perfect for one really specific slice of what you want to do. All these edge workers, that's a good example, like, Cloudflare and Fastly and Lambda, they have these really powerful units of compute that can run on the edge really quickly. And that's not containers. I think there's some overlap with container tech, but it's definitely different, and on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these data warehouses running these giant queries and like just complicated data pipelines, and that's compute also, but it's just so different,
Yeah, I think there is a scenario for everything. Basically, it's not like a common thing that's going to happen. There is going to be a lot of things.
Yeah, so you're basically picking and choosing super specialized platforms to unify and to build your application on top of, and that's very different from before, where again, you had one platform and then you built your app on top, and that was it. So I think that's just going to keep accelerating, and I don't think we're really completely, like, we haven't really incorporated that's the new reality. So a lot of our tools, I think, are going to break, or our ways of thinking. The one that I'm really interested in is if you're a software company, you're trying to ship a software product, you can't really outsource the platform anymore. I think that's the really interesting one for me. It's kind of like in manufacturing, if you're, I don't know, making a car or manufacturing any kind of vehicle, if you design your own car, you're going to have to design your own factory. They kind of go together, you know. You can't buy. When they started Tesla, they couldn't just buy a Tesla factory, right? That's not a thing. You're
right. Or they cannot send like another factory to build their doors or something. They have to do it themselves.
Yeah, and then if they outsource parts of it, you know, they have to design how, and even if it's outsourced, it's still part of their. It's within their control, right? It's their specs, and okay, I'm going to outsource this piece, but not that piece, and maybe I'll take it back internally later. So, in this metaphor, you know, the factory is the platform, you know, that ships the product, and so I think every software team or business will eventually have to build their own platform by picking and choosing, and that's really hard to do. And we're all trying to figure out how, you know. You can't just say, AWS is my platform. That's it, done, you know, because AWS is like a million products now. So,
they have everything. Okay, cool. And one of the things that I made a video about your PyCon US 2013, the feature of Linux container is called. And it was really fun because it was only 5 minutes and you were blowing people's mind, and then they were kicking you out. Okay, thank you, Solomon. Really interesting. I don't care. It was really funny. But the best thing about that talk is that you said that you wanted to say yes when people ask you about how to share your technology with them. Why do you think open source or sharing software is really important? What do you think? Why did you want to do that?
Well, I think it was. I can give you an answer that was specific to our situation. I don't know how well it can be generalized, but you know, this problem of platforms, that's always been sort of on our mind. You know, that okay, what's this platform? People are building apps. What's the platform for their app? You know, because now again, it can't just be Java. You know, the cloud changes all that. So what's the platform? So at that time, we were trying to be the answer. Oh, the answer is .cloud. You know, platform as a service. Our competitors were Heroku, Google App Engine. Oh, I'm the platform. Give me your app. I'll run it. And then we started running people's apps in production. Under the hood, it was containers. We had quite a few. But the problem was customization. Everybody wanted a slightly different .cloud.
Yeah.
And we took responsibility for everything because we wanted this sort of magical experience where you give us the code and that's it. So if someone said, oh, I need MongoDB. So we would go and develop a new MongoDB service, but then we would decide everything for you, the version of MongoDB, the specific replication pattern, you know, that was a lot of work. And then someone would ask for another one. So we kind of had this broader and broader catalog.
Didn't scale.
Yeah, it did not scale very well. I mean, sorry, the MongoDB service scaled okay, but then the work of maintaining it did not scale. And then they shipped, I remember MongoDB specifically. By the way, we ran all of this on containers at the time, which was kind of a very bleeding edge thing to do, which we sometimes regret.
Volumes,
stateful stuff, was hard. But I remember MongoDB
was back then, is not right now. It was only back then. Yeah, it's not a problem anymore, right?
I heard it's still a problem, but believe me, it got better. I think now, I think it actually makes sense to do it now, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had the MongoDB upgrade. You know, MongoDB shipped a new version, and you couldn't just upgrade it. You had to follow these really specific orchestrated steps, and you know, and you couldn't lose the state. So we had to develop all that automation. And so basically, we were spread super thin, and we tried to add some customization hooks. So we added a special service called the custom service, where you could customize what would run in the container. You know, so you could say, okay, these are the ports I want to listen to. this is how I want to build things. So it was actually the ancestor of both the Docker file and the Docker Compose file. It was actually a YAML, the .cloud.yaml file that you wrote looked a lot like what is now Docker Compose. It is very similar.
Okay.
But basically, we just...
You guys didn't create Docker Compose, right? Because that was called Fig, I think.
We did not, but it was, we'd have to check with Ben, but it's directly inspired because Ben, while we were doing .cloud, he had another startup at the time. I forgot the name, but it was basically a Heroku competitor, just like us, but Python only. And then just like every other PaaS, they shut down, and later we shut down, But so Ben Firstman, his name, he was, very familiar with the PaaS space and what we were doing. And so I believe that the .cloud.yaml was their inspiration with him and his Anand, but actually would have to check with him on that.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone was sort of like, there was a lot of cross-pollination around that time. It was a pretty small.
Okay, so answering the question is that you needed, you basically didn't, wasn't able to scale, right?
Right, and so we tried to make the platform itself more customizable, but it was difficult. And some customization was really just, we want your tools, but we want to run it on our infrastructure. So the elephant in the room at the time was AWS. Now they have more competition, but at the time they were the only giant cloud provider. And we were basically reselling their compute, so you would pay a subscription to .cloud, and then we would turn around and host the applications on AWS servers. But then let's say, there's a lot of infrastructure innovation, like a new region. Oh, there's a new Singapore region. Oh, when are you guys going to support deploying to the Singapore region? Oh, well, it's on the roadmap. It's just a lot to cover on the infrastructure side. And it was a lot to cover on the tooling side. And really, it made more sense to focus on the tooling side. So the obvious next step was to open source the tool. At least it was the only reasonable path that we saw.
Awesome. Well, it's a good thing that you guys did that, because I think that, every developer right now uses Docker, and I think it's a really important tool and definitely changed the world, in my opinion. I don't think we should have, we can have the software that we have right now without Docker. We can build stuff so quickly, and people can just Docker pull Nginx and have an Nginx server running. That is insane. I have videos of creating a mail server in under 2 minutes. And beforehand, I don't know if probably you remember, like configuring Qmail or things like that would take like days, right?
Yep.
That is insane. So thank you very much for that and your team. So okay, so what's next on Solomon Hykes' journey and Dagger? What do you want to do next?
Well, that makes me very happy what you just said. Like it's really fun to make people's lives easier. It's a nice way to have an impact. I don't know about changing the world, but definitely, changing the state of the art of creating software is great already. And so, we'd love to do it again. We're just kind of drawn to pain, like drawn to problems. Me and my co-founders, we just love talking to people about their problems and how we can help solve them. And a lot of times it's hard to see the ideal solution without talking to a lot of different people going through many variations of the same problem. Then you start seeing patterns. And then you start thinking about, okay, how can I solve the general version of this problem instead of just this particular version? The thing is, that takes time, and everyone's busy and they have a job to do. And so that's kind of our mission, I guess, to spend the time to solve the general version of the problem. So now the general problem we're trying to solve is all these glue scripts are a pain in the ass. We have just pipelines instead,
All right, awesome. Okay, so we are running out of time, so I have only 2 more questions.
Okay.
The first one is, why is the Docker logo a whale, and how did you come out with that? And that would be nice. And the second one is, have you tried mate? It's our Argentinian drink.
I have definitely tried mate. I love mate.
Awesome.
And now we have an Argentinian and a Uruguayan on the team. So now it's mate every day.
Awesome.
And the whale. So, well, actually, easy answer. We did, we shipped without a logo. I mean, we launched without a logo because it was a pivot. And then we thought, okay, we needed a logo, and we had a designer on the team, Thatcher, and he said, I'll take care of finding a logo. And so he started this contest on 99 designs. And, you know, we described the kind of a brand and, you know, message we wanted to send. And we said, we want a mascot, sort of, you know, a mascot, an animal maybe. And then just let people experiment with that. And there was just a lot of finalists. I remember when I left on a trip to France that we were down to 3 finalists. There was a sort of an acorn. There was a giraffe in the shape of a crane, you know, to like lift containers. And a third one that I couldn't remember, but there was no whale. And then I went on a trip and I got an email saying, okay, we chose the winner. It's a whale. Here it is. I was just about to give a presentation. And so I just kind of copy pasted the whale in my slides at the last minute. If you look, it's the Go Scale, I think, Go Scale conference. It's the first time we talked about this matrix from hell that I was telling you about. So if you look at the logo in that presentation on the slides, you'll notice that the whale is just a little bit different. The color is not the same, and I
noticed that there was a whale that it wasn't happy.
It's just got this
not flat.
Yes. Yeah. So but that's because it was the first draft, and then we tweaked it. We made it smile a little bit, and we had debates over, okay, how much should it smile? What's the angle and all that. But yeah,
interesting.
It just happened. You can also find that whole 99 design page. It's public, so you can see all the logos that we almost had.
Yeah, since I really love Docker, I started like collecting whales. I do have some of them.
Really?
Yeah, I love them.
I love that
obviously, I have this one, of course. And I try every time I see like a whale, I try to get it because I love them. So yeah.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Maybe I can find an exclusive whale somewhere in my basement. Who knows?
Yeah, like never seen
never seen before.
Awesome. Okay, Solomon, it was great talking to you and great to meet you. So thank you very much. Do you have anything else to share? Maybe check out Dagger, of course.
Well, right, yeah. If you have checked out Dagger, maybe give it another try soon, because this project cloak we mentioned is, you know, it brings multiple languages, so that's a big difference. No, other than that, I thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Solomon. See you around. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bienvenidos de vuelta a esta última parte del track de Dev, y acá estoy con algo esperadísimo por todos, que es el Q&A que van a tener el Pelado Nerd y Solomon Hykes, que acabamos de escuchar su charla. Así que bueno, Pelado, ahí estás. Tienen la palabra.
Muchas gracias, Vicky. Hello, Solomon. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you.
All right. So we have a lot of questions from the audience. Seems like a lot of great comments about our interview. So the first one is about layers and systems and how we are interacting with technology. People are saying, don't you think that these abstraction layers also create a lot of understanding how things actually work? Because sometimes when something fails, it's really hard to find someone that can actually understand it and debug it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, every layer has a cost. And so you just got to make sure it's worth it. You know, you got to compare the benefits to the costs, and sometimes it's negative. A lot of times it's negative. So I mean, it happens a lot that people add abstractions, they add layers, and it makes things worse. But it's not always true. You know, you just got to be. I mean, it's a very difficult part of a design is to find the answer. You know, do I need another layer or not? You know, yeah, a lot of the work in design goes there. So I agree, it's hard.
And
but it's
do you have any suggestions on how to know when a new layer can be added or not? I mean,
I don't, I don't have a formula.
any secrets?
Yeah, it is. And I think practice, you know, so
Mm.
design is hard because it's a lot of intuition informed by experience. So I have a good intuition on layers, when a new layer is needed in my little specialty, but you know, for designing a phone or a website, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's practice.
Yeah.
All right. So I have another question. So do you think is the next big change in technology? For example, maybe this is a controversial topic, but like Web3, metaverse, or data infrastructure. Do you think that something like that can be the next big thing? Maybe something to share.
Well, I think tech is so big now that there's always going to be more than one really big things at the same time, which is kind of incredible, you know. So that's new, just that it's that big that there's never going to be just one thing. I mean, things that get me excited, man, there's a lot. Things are just more programmable. You can do more stuff with code. Yeah, I love that physical objects can be programmed. Having absolutely everything in the world programmable, you can write code and things happen. That to me is
being able to automate things.
Yeah, automate anything with code. You know, with code, just you can reach. It's like it's your keyboard and your code editor, and you can reach further and further into the world. You know, that's pretty amazing.
Okay, so regarding Dagger, the new technology that you are working on, and you mentioned several times that you are releasing a new version, right? Yeah. That will be much easier to use. Can you tell me a little bit about that? When it's going to go out, and how can people go and test it right now?
Yeah, so starting next week, and then through November and December, we're going to launch several things, basically several SDKs for different languages. And so right now, there's this engine to create CI/CD pipelines as code and run them in containers. And the only language you can use to control this engine is Q. And some people love Q, some people don't. We're going to launch a Go SDK, a Node.js SDK, a Python SDK, and of course, a Bash SDK. And so, yeah,
the best language.
Go first because for technical reasons, but yeah, it's coming soon. So you can choose your favorite language and then hit that API and start building pipelines as code. Yeah.
Okay. So just to be completely clear, are you saying that Bash is a programming language? Do you accept Bash?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bash.
Exactly. Thank you. We can finish the interview here. Thank you very much. See you later. No, I'm good. So we have another question. Fernando is asking, what do you think about WASM or WASI?
Oh, I think it's really cool. I'm very excited about it. I'm very sad because I did not find an excuse to use it on my new project yet, but I'm still looking. So it will happen eventually. And I'm watching it. I think it's very exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. So Gabriel is asking, what was your feeling when Kubernetes announced that they were going to stop supporting Docker, right? Are you actively contributing to the alternative options supported by Kubernetes?
Oh. Yeah, that was actually it's support for the Docker shim, right? Like the old Docker compat layer. I mean, Docker decided, very early, the Docker community told Docker, please break up the monolithic Docker daemon into individual pieces. And we did that in coordination with the Kubernetes developers and a bunch of other projects. So we spun out run C and then containerd. And so now if you ask Docker, hey, what do you, Docker, recommend running with Kubernetes? Docker will say containerd, because that's the dominant container runtime under the hood. I think today 90% of all Kubernetes workloads, they probably run on containerd, either via the Docker shim or not. So I mean, it was a good thing. It's just it took time to refactor, to re-engineer because of the legacy, but I just feel bad for the engineers who had to like make it work, because like refactoring legacy production systems is always hard.
Yeah, definitely was a little confusing for people. People didn't understand that Docker, it wasn't the fact that Docker couldn't run Kubernetes, it's like just a little part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more question. Are you currently hiring in your new company?
Yeah, of course.
It seems like a great company to work on.
Yeah, our philosophy is we love talking to great people that are interested in what we're doing. And maybe there's a role now, maybe there's a role later. Maybe talking to you will help us define the next role, you know. Either way, first we talk and then we figure it out together.
You find the job for the person.
Yeah.
Awesome. So regarding Dagger again, is it going to be able to run in any CI/CD tool like GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, Bitbucket, and all of those?
Yeah. It's like an engine that can run the same pipeline anywhere you have an OCI compatible container runtime. So it can run on your local Docker machine, Podman, Kubernetes, GitHub Actions. They have a container runner, Circle CI, whatever. If you can run containers, you can run your Dagger pipelines.
Awesome. We had 2 more minutes, so I lost the question. That was a really good question. Okay, so what are your favorite business and startups, authors, books, things like people can get to know more about you?
Oh man.
What are you interested on besides work?
Oh, I love history.
Okay.
I love geopolitics. You know, history. I love just randomly walking into a library and picking a history book about something. I read this book about Red Cloud, who was a Sioux leader, and was at war with the United States, in the plains of the United States super late. And it just, or I read a book about like the independence of India and the separation between India and Pakistan and the, really dramatic things that happened there. And you just sort of discover all these things that happened that you didn't know about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the last question, we only have 30 more seconds. So the last question is, what is the business of Dagger? Because you are building this company, you're sharing all of this, and it's all for free. Did you need to eat or something? Did you pay rent?
Yeah, a super simple open source engine and an optional cloud product that we call Dagger Cloud, with add-on features that you can opt into if you want, or you can just use the engine and we're happy.
Awesome. Yeah. That sounds really good. So
simple is always better.
Yep. So let's make sure to share the link there on the chat. I think it's already there for people to actually go and test it out. So thank you very much, Solomon. Vicky, do you have any more questions for the audience, or do we have more time?
I don't think so, and I think we're at time. It was a joy listening to you, Solomon.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a history fan too.
You're talking about.
I'm like fangirling here, like yes. All right.
Thank you.
Talking about Solomon or me or.
You too, Pelado. I love you too as well.
Thank you. All right, guys.
Okay. Bueno.
That's it. Thank you, Solomon.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you both. Gracias a ambos. Bueno, volvieron conmigo y acá estamos en el final del track de Dev. Antes que arranquemos con todo lo que tengo para contarles, les quiero agradecer por estar conmigo hoy, mandarle un saludo a todos los que me conocen. Yo soy Vicky Charra y me encantó formar parte de este primer día de Nerdearla, pero antes de irme, algunos recordatorios. Esta 9ª edición de Nerdearla tiene más de 150 charlas y talleres, no se la pueden perder. Si todavía no se anotaron, vayan a nerdearla.la. Regístrense. Si están en Buenos Aires, vengan al Conex mañana y a vivenciar esta experiencia de nerdearla en vivo que después de haber venido a casi todos los 9 nerdearlas que llevamos, se las recomiendo un montón. Vengan con sus amigos, vengan con su familia, va a haber un montón de actividades en todos los stands. Recuerden, para quienes sigan este evento de forma virtual, que Swapcard es la herramienta que tiene esta conferencia para que puedan comunicarse con los speakers, para que puedan mandarnos sus preguntas, sus comentarios y nos cuenten cómo la están pasando. También nuestras redes, en @nerdearla, en Twitter, en Instagram, el hashtag nerdearla. Queremos leerlos, queremos escuchar cómo la están pasando, qué opinan, qué les produce todo lo que está pasando adentro de Nerdearla. Y algo más que lo voy a decir, creo que por la 10ª vez el día de hoy, pero Sysarmy cumple 10 años, gente, 10 años de sysadmines organizados, haciendo eventos, haciendo meetups y dando a luz un evento como Nerdearla. Felicitaciones a ellos. Síganles en sus redes para enterarse de todo lo que se viene y de esas sorpresas que nos dejaron con puntos suspensivos y ya veremos de qué se tratan. También acerca de OpenCube, no voy a decir el nombre de la competencia norteamericana porque por ahí no se puede, pero sí es nuestro lugar local, regional, para ir a buscar referencias de empresas, de startups, empresas grandes, empresas chicas. Así que si estás buscando trabajo, por ahí es un buen lugar para que chequees referencias acerca de cómo se trabaja ahí, qué herramientas se usan, cómo son los equipos de trabajo. Si no estás buscando trabajo y querés dejar una review del lugar en el que trabajás, sabé que haciendo eso ayudás a mucha gente, no solamente dejando una review, sino calificando tu empresa para que les sirva de referencia a otras personas. Y los espero mañana en el Conex. Acá con todo el equipo de Nerdearla, gracias a la producción que me aguantó en esta primera expedición siendo host. Espero que les haya gustado y nos vemos mañana con más Nerdearla.
Vamos a nerdear, vamos a nerdearla. Falta el punto y coma, la base no conecta, nagios en rojo y el ping no me responde. Somos nerds, quédate en tu container, apaga la guardia que vamos a shipear.